Hi, good morning. I'm Susan. This is a comeback yoga class, and it's a 50-minute class. It's a level two. So we do movements based on the form of sun salutation. We'll do some warm ups, we'll do some standing poses, we'll do some balancing, and then we'll sit down, do some stretching, do some relaxation, and then we'll be done. Uh, This says Comeback Yoga class. If you haven't been to Comeback Yoga before, Comeback Yoga is a nonprofit, and we offer classes to people of military culture and military background. And our classes are geared towards people who have um, things in their lives that might be beneficial to. Uh, uh, so, if someone, for example, has PTS and they are working through those issues, then our classes are geared towards people who might have um, things like that. So that's really the only difference in our classes. And we really welcome anybody who wants to come in our YouTube classes, which are held, our live stream classes are held every single day at 8 a.m. That's Mountain Time, and Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon, and Monday through Thursday at 6. We offer different variations of classes. Some classes are chair classes where you sit and stand. Some classes are mat classes like this one. Some classes are part gentle yoga and part meditation. So we have a big wide mix of classes. And you can also view our classes afterwards on our YouTube channel as videos. So you have lots of different options to practice. I hope you'll come back and practice with us all the time. Um, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to walk back a little bit towards my mat. And as I do that, you walk onto your mat too. Maybe you're sitting on your mat already. That's fine. And take a look around you and see what your mat space is like. You can look left and right. You can look up and down. You can look behind you and see if you've set yourself up exactly how you want. Maybe you want a little extra support. You can get a chair and hold on to the chair for extra support, maybe for balance. Maybe you want a closed door, change the temperature of your room. This is a good time to do that kind of thing. And if you're in a space that's really familiar to you, maybe that's great. Or maybe you're in a space that's kind of unfamiliar to you. Just make sure you know where everything is, and you won't be bumping into anything while you're moving around. Now I'm going to turn left and right from side to side. And every time I turn and face one direction, that's the top of my mat. So you don't have to turn left and right and go from side to side on your mat, but I will so you can see that side of my body a little bit better. Let's start seated. You can sit down onto your mat, and we'll just do some seated stretches first. So you can put your hands on the tops of your knees. I'm sitting cross-legged. You don't have to sit cross-legged. You can sit however you want to. And wrap your fingers over the fronts of your knees and sit really tall and notice your body. Notice your head and your shoulders and your back and your hips. Notice your legs and your arms. Notice your hands and your feet. You can move your body around a little bit and then start to notice the process of your body. In other words, notice sometimes that you swallow. Notice that your eyes are blinking. Notice that your heart is beating. Notice that your digestion is working. Things like that. You might even feel like your blood pumping. Notice all the workings of your body. And now start to notice your ways of communicating with the outside world, and that's your senses. So notice your sight, things coming in through your eyes. Notice what you are discerning, like light or color or shape. And notice sensations on your skin, like maybe you're feeling temperature, or perhaps you're feeling pressure, texture from your clothes or from sitting. Maybe you can feel the texture or the density of the thing that you're sitting on. Notice perhaps smell in your nose as you breathe, and notice perhaps taste in your mouth. as you swallow. And then notice what you hear. Notice maybe the sound of my voice, or maybe you're hearing noise internally or externally. You might be noticing sounds of traffic or sounds of birds or whatever you're noticing. Maybe it's the sounds of your house, sounds of your space. All of those senses, all of the ways that you interact with the outside world, those senses can be turned inward. That is a practice of yoga. Turn your senses inward. Start to feel and notice what you feel inside, what you're noticing inside, what you hear inside, what you smell inside, what you taste inside, what you feel with your sense of touch. Turn your awareness and your senses inward and pay attention to yourself. Just for this hour, maybe make a pact with yourself that you'll pay attention to yourself in this hour and you'll focus on all of the things about you. Bring your hands together in front of your chest, sit really tall. Exhale and bring your arms forward. Point your arms forward, tuck your chin, and curl your spine. Inhale to sit tall. Open across your palms, spread across your fingertips, lift your gaze. Exhale, take your right arm underneath your left. Wrap your arms around each other and take a big circle with your torso. Go from right to forward to left to sit tall. Unwrap your arms, put your hands together. Point your fingers forward, dive your arms forward, tuck your chin, and curl your spine. Inhale to sit tall, lift your chest, open wide, lift your gaze. Exhale and take your left arm underneath your right. You can wrap your arms around each other. Take a big circle with your torso from your left to forward, to your right, to sit up. Unwrap your arms. Put your hands beside you on your mat, maybe your fingertips on your mat. Lift your rib cage, lift your gaze. Exhale, soften up a little bit. Take your right hand across over toward your left knee and lean back over towards the right. And then take your left arm up and over. Lift your torso a little. Take your left hand across over toward your right knee and lean back a little. And stretch your right arm up and over. Inhale to lift up and take your arms as a T once again. Reach your arms overhead, connect your palms. Exhale and draw your elbows out to the sides, make cactus arms. Put your thumbs and your ring fingers together and turn your palms out to the side. Bring your forearms towards each other. Tuck your chin, curl your spine. Inhale to spread across your elbows, lift your gaze. Exhale, curl in, bring your forearms towards each other. Tuck your chin, curl your spine. Inhale to spread across your elbows, lift your gaze. Release your thumbs and your ring fingers and let your arms drift back down by your sides. Gather up your legs and pull your knees in toward your chest. Uncross. Hold on to the backs of your legs and bring your torso toward your thighs. Stretch your back. Inhale to lift up, sweep your arms forward and lean back into boat pose with your feet down onto your mat. Inhale to lift up and hold the backs of your legs. Bring your torso toward your thighs. Inhale to lift up, lean forward with your arms and lean back with your body. Roll down onto your low back. Your head, neck, and shoulders are still up. Pull yourself all the way back up. This time, straighten your legs a little bit more. Press your hands down the tops of your legs. Lean forward. Inhale to lift up, sit tall, float your arms parallel to the floor. Start to lower yourself down. Keep your heels pressing, toes coming towards your shins, head, neck, and shoulders still curled up. Pull yourself all the way back up and then come into double leg forward folds. Slide forward. Give your hands a little bit more weight. Inhale to sit tall, then gather up your legs, come into boat pose. Float your feet off the floor. You can bring your shins parallel. Now sit a little bit taller, pull up and in at your belly. Hook your left ankle over your right. Hook your feet together. Squeeze your legs towards each other and push both hands over to one side and bring your hands over and push both hands over to the other side and bring your arms up overhead and reach, breathe, uncross your ankles, and then bring your legs underneath you. Come into table. So once you're in table, you can readjust yourself on your mat and move through cat and cow a couple of times. It's a very simple movement. You're lifting and lowering your belly, and you're pulling up and in, and then everything else in your body just goes along for the ride. Just pulling your belly up, your tailbone tucks under, your rib cage angles differently, your head drops, letting your belly come forward down towards your mat, your tailbone lifts, your chest lifts, angles a little differently, and your head lifts. Just move through your spine a couple more times, rolling through cat and cow, and then tucking your toes under, let your hips move back toward your heels, stretch out the bottoms of your feet and your low back, and walk your hands forward onto your mat and lean forward, let your hips come in line with your shoulders, and we'll pull up and in at your belly, squeeze your glutes a little, and lift your legs. So you're lengthening your legs, lifting your knees off your mat, coming into plank. Breathe here for a second, bring your head in line with the rest of your spine. And take your right knee down and step your left leg forward in between your hands. We're coming into low lunge, pressing down into your front foot. Lift your torso up, sweep your arms up overhead. Put your hands, interlace your fingers on your front leg and lean forward. Your torso can come forward just a little or as much as you want. Inhale to push yourself back up, sweep your arms overhead. Exhale and take your hands back down to your mat. Step back into table and glide through cat and cow a couple times more. You're tucking under, lifting and lowering your tailbone, moving through your spine, letting your head come along for the ride. Maybe continuing to turn your senses inward. How does it feel inside? Can you give yourself more awareness on what's happening inside your body, with your body, encouraging your senses? Staying more present with what you're doing. And tuck your toes under and let your hips move back toward your heels, stretching out your low back, bottoms of your feet. Maybe you feel it in a different place. Walking your hands forward, lean forward, your shoulders come over your wrists, your hips come forward a little, your toes are still tucked under, maybe lift one or both knees off of your floor, and you're coming into plank position. Give yourself a moment in plank. Your head's in line with the rest of your spine, and your left knee comes down, your right foot steps forward. You can assist it forward with your hands. Press down into your front foot and lift yourself up into low lunge. Your arms come up overhead. Interlace your fingers, place your hands on your front leg and inch forwards, lean forward over your front leg, as little or as much as you like. Inhale to lift yourself all the way back up, sweep your arms overhead. Exhale, take your hands down to your mat. Bring your right leg back to match your left leg. And one more time, we'll go through tucking under and lowering, moving through cat and cow. Now tuck your toes under, let your hips move back toward your heels. Lean forward, walk your hands forward, and this time instead of going into plank, we're going into upward facing dog. So you stretch out and let your hips hang forward a little. Keep a little tone in your belly and point your chest forward and point your gaze down and forward. Pull your hips back and pull your hips all the way back toward your heels. You can untuck your toes if they were tucked. Stretch your side bodies long, stretch out through your fingers, rock a little bit side to side. Inhale to lift up, and we'll move into downward facing dog. Downward facing dog can look like a couple different things. You might be still more or less in table, or you could be on your shins with your arms outstretched, hips over your knees, Or you can be on your hands and feet with your legs straightening like in plank, with your hips angled up to where the wall and the ceiling meet. And choose your downward facing dog variation, whichever one you like best. You could try all three that I just mentioned and see which one you like best. Then start to walk your feet forward. Your feet come forward towards your hands. They're coming into a forward fold at the top of your mat. And once you get to the top of your mat, bring your elbows onto the tops of your legs. You can interlace your fingers and support your forward fold, and use your eyes, use your gaze to acknowledge and notice all the things that are around your feet, in front of you. Maybe you could look behind you a little bit and on the sides of you. And start to bend your knees and track your gaze forward onto your floor. Put your hands on the fronts of your legs and use the strength of your arms to push yourself all the way back up to standing. Once you get up to stand, roll your shoulders up, back, and down. And bring your hands together in front of your chest. Inhale to reach up towards the ceiling. Exhale to part your arms out to T. When you part your arms out to T, turn your palms down and start to hinge at your hips. So weight moves back into your heels, your hips move back, and you hinge forward. Hinge forward, hinge forward. You're hinging right here at your hip line, at your waist, at your the place where your legs and your torso meet. So hinge and hinge and hinge until you don't hinge anymore. Let your head drop down and place your hands down and step or walk or hop back to plank. Just walk your feet back, step back, hop back, however you like to do it. And now you're in plank position, which looks like a push-up. Give yourself a little bit of time here in your push-up position, and then let your knees come down and lower yourself all the way down onto your stomach. Your hands are right by your chest. Your elbows are tucked in tight toward your sides. Point your toes and lengthen your legs a little bit. Now slightly squeeze your glutes just a little and tuck your tailbone just a little, and use that foundation, your heavy lower body, to lift your rib cage a little bit. So your lower body gets heavy so your upper body can be light. Lengthen the back of your neck, slightly tuck your chin, and try floating your hands off the floor. Breathe here for a moment. And then lower your hands down, tuck your toes under, push yourself onto your knees. Let your hips move back toward your heels. Stretch out. Inhale to lift your hips, walk your hands forward a little. Tuck your toes under and lengthen your legs into downward facing dog. Now remember, your downward facing dog could look different than this. Maybe your shins are on the floor, and maybe your hands and maybe your body is more like in a table position. Look forward between your thumbs and walk or step or hop your feet toward your hands. And we're back in forward fold. So bring your elbows to the tops of your knees, interlace your fingers, really support your forward fold. You can straighten your spine a lot and give yourself extra support for your low back, extra support for your legs. Breathe here. One more inhale and exhale and forward fold. And unlace your fingers, put your hands on the tops of your knees and straighten your arms. Assist the lift of your torso. Stand tall. Reach up towards the ceiling. Exhale, bring your arms out to T, and we're hinging forward once again. Turn your palms down and hinge forward. Move the weight into your heels, move your hips back, and lengthen your spine. Once you hinge as much as you do hinge, then you can bend your knees a little and curl and round. Let your head hang down. Plant your hands and step or walk or hop back to plank. Lower yourself down onto your belly. Lengthen your legs. Float your hands. Lift your chest. Plant your hands down. Push yourself onto your knees. Your hips move back toward your heels. Inhale to lift into downward facing dog. Look forward between your thumbs. Step or walk or hop forward, top of your mat. Place your elbows on the fronts of your knees. Sit down, fingers interlaced. Put your hands on the fronts of your legs. Push yourself all the way back up to standing. Reach up towards the ceiling. Arms come out to T. Hinge forward until you don't hinge anymore comfortably, and then round, bend your knees, let your head drop. Plant your hands, step or walk or hop back to plank. Onto your knees, lower down onto your belly. Cobra pose. Lengthen your legs, squeeze your glutes a little, lift your ribcage, lift your hands. Plant down, tuck your toes, bring yourself all the way back. Stretch pose. Straightening your legs and lifting your hips into downward facing dog. Look forward between your thumbs. Start to walk your feet forward or hop forward or step forward. Come back into your forward fold with your elbows on the tops of your knees, fingers interlaced. Now from here, start to straighten your legs, float your elbows off of your knees, and stretch your arms up overhead. Fingers still interlaced. Now release your pointer fingers, index fingers, and point straight up towards the sky, towards the ceiling. Reach, maybe you can see the ceiling above you. See whatever landmark you see above you, and then turn your gaze down towards the floor. Just notice, bend your elbows and point your fingers down towards the floor behind you. Then unlace your fingers, put your hands on the tops of your shoulders, settle your shoulders down, and sweep your arms down behind you and sit back into chair pose. Inhale to sweep your arms up and overhead. Exhale, part your arms, bringing your arms out to T, turning your palms down, hinge forward just until you hinge comfortably, and then bend your knees and sink into rounding. Place your hands on your mat and step or walk or hop back to plank. Lower yourself down onto your belly. And this time we'll do a different back bend. So we're coming into locust pose. Sweep your arms back behind you. Reach your fingers toward your toes. Lift your rib cage and point your toes and lift your legs. Lift and stretch and breathe. And lower back down. Hands on either side of your chest. Push yourself onto your knees. Tuck your legs underneath your body and take a little rest. You might not be quite ready for a rest, but notice how rest feels in your body. If this pose doesn't feel restful, how can you give it a little bit more restful quality? Maybe lift up a little bit more or walk your knees apart a little bit more. Give yourself more internal awareness. You're paying attention, listening, noticing, turning your senses inward. However you are seated, resting, start to bring yourself back into your table. Let's go back to the beginning. Table. Tuck your tailbone under and lift your tailbone. Pull your belly up and let your belly drop down. Notice how your body feels when you move in this particular way. Is it different from the first time that we moved through cat and cow? It doesn't have to be, but it might be. Shift your weight onto your right knee and step your left foot forward into low lunge, lifting your torso, sweeping your arms up overhead. Exhale, take your left arm forward and sweep your right arm back and follow your thumb with your gaze. Take your right hand forward and then pull back with your right fist. Your right elbow comes back. Your fist is by your jaw. Release your arm and sweep your right arm forward. Sweep both arms up and overhead. Exhale, place your hands down, tuck your back toes under, lift your back knee and step back to plank. Give yourself a moment in your plank. Hold there. And then lower all the way down onto the floor. Let's find locust pose. Sweep your arms back behind you, lift your rib cage, lift your legs. Point your toes. Lower down, plant your hands. Push yourself onto your knees and come back into resting position. Your hips move back toward your heels. Or you're in your own variation of resting position. Might be on your forearms. Your head might be on the floor or on your stacked fists. Maybe you're sitting all the way up. Maybe you're in table. You've got lots of options. So choose which one works best for you. Give yourself one more inhale and exhale in your resting position. And then glide forward onto your stomach. Coming into locust pose, sweeping your arms back behind you, lift your rib cage, point your toes, lift your legs. Lower back down, plant your hands, tuck your toes, push yourself onto your knees and then into plank position. And move your hips up and back in the downward facing dog. Your downward facing dog might look different than this. That's fine. Give yourself the downward facing dog that you would like to give yourself. Go back to the beginning, bring your knees down, find cat and cow, tucking under and lifting. Each time you revisit cat and cow, this is kind of like your basis, your baseline. Notice how each part of your body feels. Notice your hands and your feet. Notice your arms and your legs. Notice your shoulders and your hips and your torso. Notice your head and your neck. Shifting your weight onto your left knee, stepping your right foot forward in between your hands, and press down into your front foot and lift yourself into low lunge. Your arms sweep up. Exhale your right arm forward, your left arm comes back behind you, and follow your thumb with your gaze. Left hand comes forward towards your right and pull back. You have a fist in your left hand, your left elbow pulls back, and your fist is by your jaw. Release your arm, sweep forward, reach up and overhead. Exhale your hands down. Plant your hands down, tuck your back toes under, lift your back knee, and step back to plank. Find your plank, pause for a moment, then lower down, all the way down. Find your locust pose, stretch your arms out in front of you, lift your centers of your palms, and lift your chest and lift your legs. This is a little bit different variation. With your arms outstretched, lift and stretch and breathe. And lower down, plant your hands on either side of your chest, take your toes under, push yourself onto your knees, and come into resting position. Your hips move back. Or it's your own variation of resting position, which is awesome. Choose the one that works best for you. Breathe and breathe and breathe. Inhale to lift up. We'll do one more cat and cow here, tucking under and lifting and noticing how your body feels, noticing how your breath is moving, turning your senses inward. Walk your hands forward a little, tuck your toes under, lift your knees, and start to walk your feet forward toward your hands. Come into our first variation of forward fold. Elbows on the tops of your knees, interlace your fingers, support your back, lengthen your spine. Move weight back into your heels so you can lift your toes a little. And plant your toes down, press down into your feet, and use the strength of your legs and your breath to stand tall. Your fingers are still interlaced. Stretch up towards the ceiling, uncross your index fingers, and point up towards the ceiling, and maybe look past your index fingers to a point on the ceiling. And then bring your gaze, track your gaze down in front of you and look down towards the floor. And bend your elbows and point your fingers down, straight down behind you. Unlace your fingers, put your hands on the tops of your shoulders, settle your shoulders on your upper back, and release your arms back down by your sides. Put your hands together in front of your chest, palms and fingers together, shifting your weight onto your left foot, stepping your right foot back. Warrior one, bending into your front knee, sweeping your arms up and overhead. Exhaling your left arm forward, follow your right thumb with your gaze. Right arm comes forward, pull back with a fist, and your right fist is by your jaw. Release your arms, sweep forward, reach up and overhead. Exhale and start to tilt forward. We're coming into dancer pose. So your front leg is your foundation leg. Your back leg can float or your toes can be down. Your knee could be bent or your leg can be straight. Keep lifting your rib cage, lengthening, stretching, breathing. Nice work. Step together. Inhale to reach up. Exhale to swan dive forward. Plant your hands down, step or walk or hop back to plank. You can take as many hops as you want to. Back to plank. Lower yourself down. Come into locust either with your arms out in front of you or your arms behind you. Any variation. Lift your rib cage, lift your legs, squeeze your glutes a little. Lower down to your mat, plant your hands, tuck your toes, push yourself into resting position. Hips move back toward your heels. And lift up, spread your fingers wide, tuck your toes under, and lengthen your legs in a downward facing dog. Downward facing dog, you're lifting and lowering your heels. You're letting your head be in line with the rest of your spine, giving yourself opportunities to listen internally. And look forward between your thumbs and step or walk or take little hops or one big hop forward. Come all the way forward, feet meeting hands. And place your elbows on the tops of your knees and interlace your fingers in just kind of loose lace and sit back and support yourself. And press down into your feet and lift with the power, the strength of your legs. Lift yourself all the way to stand. Reach your arms overhead. Unlace just your index fingers and point up towards the ceiling. Bring your gaze past up to a point on your ceiling. And then track your gaze down your wall in front of you and look down towards the floor in front of you. Bend your elbows and point your pointer fingers down behind you to a spot behind you on your mat. Unlace your fingers, put your hands on the tops of your shoulders, settle your shoulders down. Your arms come down by your sides. Inhale to reach out and up and overhead. Exhale, part your arms out to the sides, turn your palms down and hinge forward just until you hinge comfortably. Hinge and hinge and hinge, and then you bend. Bend your knees, curl your spine, let your head drop down. Rock a little bit from side to side. And shifting your weight onto your right foot, stepping your left foot back, your heel comes down, and lifting yourself all the way up into warrior one. Your arms come forward. Your left arm dips down. Follow your thumb with your gaze as you look back. Left hand tracks across and pulls back. Pull back with a fist. Your left fist comes by your left jaw, elbow pointing back behind you, and release your arm long and sweep down and up overhead, both arms. Exhale, your hands come down towards your mat. Step back to plank. Any plank. So you can do plank with one knee down. You can do plank on your forearms, on your fists, whatever variation you like. Lower yourself all the way down onto your stomach. Do any variation of back bend. So, cobra, pointing your toes, lifting your rib cage, lifting your hands. Locust, arms out in front, hands on the floor, pointing your toes, lifting your legs. And locust variation, arms reaching back behind you, lifting your chest and lifting your legs. So you're still in your back bend variation, maybe breathing, lengthening, stretching, giving yourself a little bit more time in your back bend. And then lower all the way down. Take a little rest here on your belly. And take your hands on either side of your chest, tuck your toes under, push yourself onto your knees. Walk your hands back until your forearms are kind of close, your elbows are kind of close to your knees. Keep your toes tucked under and press back and stretch out the bottoms of your feet to your low back, other places that you might notice. And then start to walk your hands back toward your knees and straighten your legs. Now you're in forward fold at the back of your mat, facing towards the top of your mat. Bring your elbows to the tops of your knees, interlace your fingers, sit down. Give yourself lots of support in your forward fold, lengthen your spine, lengthen your neck. Pressing down into your legs, use the strength of your legs to lift your torso. Sweep your arms up overhead. Release your index fingers. Point up towards the ceiling. Bring your gaze up. And bring your gaze down. Track it down across. And look down towards your mat. Bend your elbows. Point your fingers down behind you. Noticing spots. And unlacing your fingers, placing your hands on the tops of your shoulders, settle your shoulders down, release your arms down. Bring your gaze straight forward and bring your hands together in front of your chest, shifting your weight onto your left foot. Pick up your right heel and float your right knee. Extend your right leg, balance, breathe. Rock forward onto your right foot, bring your right arm overhead and your left arm back. When you can bring your heel toward your hip, left heel toward your left hip, and bring your hands together in front of your chest. Bring your left knee forward, left leg forward, and rock forward onto your left foot and split your arms. Left arm overhead, right arm back. And you can bring your right heel up toward your hand. Hands together in front of your chest and step together at the top of your mat. Inhale to reach up. Exhale to swan dive forward, hang forward, in forward fold. Give yourself a moment. Then slide your hands to the fronts of your shins and lengthen through your side bodies. Sit back in a chair pose with your arms overhead. And sweep your arms back behind you and come into drinking bird. Rock forward onto the balls of your feet and lift your heels. And balance. And breathe. Heels down, straighten your legs, stand tall. Put your hands together in front of your chest. Shifting your weight onto your right foot, your left foot steps back. Come into warrior one, bending into your front knee, orienting to the short edge of the mat. Open towards the long edge of the mat, coming into warrior two. Turn your palms up and stretch your arms overhead. Connect your palms. Exhale, bring your arms back out to T. Turn your palms down. Inhale, reach your arms overhead to the backs of your hands together. And arms back down by your side. Straighten your front leg and tilt yourself into triangle. Your right hand can slide down the front of your right leg. Your left hand might come up your side a little. Inhale to lift yourself all the way back up to stand. Place your hands down onto your mat. Rotate. Orient towards the short edge of your mat. Step back to plank. Lower yourself down onto your belly. Do any back bend that you like. You can do a different back bend than the ones we were practicing earlier. You could do a Sphinx pose with your elbows, your forearms on the floor. You can do a different variation. You could do a bow pose, holding on to your ankles and lifting your rib cage and lifting your thighs. Release your back bend. Push yourself up into resting position. Your legs tucked underneath your body, your hips moving back. And then stretch yourself into downward facing dog. You can always stay in resting position too if you prefer. It's always fine to take a little rest, take a little break, continuing to turn your senses inward. Look forward between your thumbs and walk or step or hop your feet forward towards the top of your mat. Hang forward in forward fold. And place your elbows on your knees and interlace your fingers. Really support your forward fold. Connecting your upper body to your lower body, noticing how your breath is working. And press down into your legs and use the strength of your legs. Lift yourself all the way to stand. Stretch your arms overhead. Unlace your index fingers, point up and look at a point that you are pointing to. Then track your gaze down. Look down towards your mat, towards the floor. Bend your elbows and point your fingers down behind you. Unlace your fingers, put your hands on the tops of your shoulders. Your arms come down by your sides. Inhale to sweep your arms out and up and overhead. Exhale, draw your hands down through the center line of your body. Pause for a moment. Shifting your weight onto your left foot, your right foot steps back into warrior one, bending into your front knee, sweeping your arms up and overhead. And opening into warrior two, opening towards the long edge of your mat. You just can reorient yourself a little bit. Turn your palms up. Inhale to sweep your arms overhead. Connect your palms. Exhale, your arms come out to T. Turn your palms down. Inhale to lift your arms overhead. Touch the backs of your hands together. Exhale, your arms come down. Bring your arms down by your sides. Straighten your legs and tilt your torso. It's a very mindful triangle. Your left hand slides down the front of your left leg. There's very little weight on your hand. It's just a guide for helping stretch both of your side bodies. Your right arm is long, your right side. Stretch and stretch and stretch. Inhale to glide back up to stand. Exhale, plant your hands down. Come back into your plank position. Lower yourself down. Come into any back bend that you like. You might try a bow pose this time if you haven't already. Bringing your heels up toward your hips, maybe holding on with your hands and lifting your rib cage. Lowering down, release your grip if you had one, or if you're in a different variation of back bend, put your hands on either side of your chest. Push yourself onto your knees and tuck your legs underneath your body, coming into resting position. Rock a little bit side to side. Inhale to lift up a little, walk your hands forward, lean into upward facing dog, and pull back into downward facing dog. Pedal out your feet, move your head around, lift and lower your heels. So look forward between your thumbs and step or walk or hop. You can take as many steps as you want to, as many hops as you want to. Put your elbows on your legs and interlace your fingers and sit down in your supported forward fold. Press down into your feet and use the strength of your legs. Lift yourself all the way to stand. Stretch your arms up overhead, and then we'll do a side stretch. So plant down into your feet. Unlace your index fingers, point up, and then track a dotted line on the ceiling over to the side. Keep planting your heels down. Inhale to come back to your starting point, and then track a dotted line over to the other direction. Inhale to lift up, point your pointer fingers up, and then bend your elbows, point your pointer fingers down towards the floor. Unlace your fingers, put your hands on the tops of your shoulders, settle your shoulders down, release your arms down by your side. Put your hands together in front of your chest, shifting your weight onto your right foot, your left foot steps back. Come into half splits, your right heel's on the floor, your toes are up, hinge forward. Keep your gaze forward. Strengthen your standing leg, your back leg. Start to lift your torso and lift your leg that's in front of you at the same time. Lift and lift and lift. And take your floating leg that's in front of you and pull it back behind you. And you can either go into dancer pose or you can come into warrior three, where you're tilting your torso down to parallel to the floor and your leg parallel to the floor. Your back leg glides down. And now your front leg is your standing half splits, hinging forward. Lengthening your sides, lengthening your spine, lengthening your front leg. Press down into your foundation leg and lift your floating leg, your front leg in front of you. Nice job. And then stretch your floating leg back behind you. You can either come into dancer pose or you can come into warrior three. Tilting your torso forward, your back leg back until you approach parallel to the floor. Start to curl your floating leg underneath you. Step together at the back of your mat. Inhale to reach up. Exhale, part your arms and swan dive forward. Hang forward in your forward fold. And let your knees slowly come down. If you want, you can sit back in a squat. That's an option. So your heels might be off or on the floor. Your knees are pointing forward, your feet are pointing forward, your elbows are on the insides of your knees and your hands are together. But that's not a pose that you want to work with. You can be here because we're going to end up in cat and cow. If you're in table, you can be moving through cat and cow and letting your hips lean left and right. If you are still in your squat, you can pause there for a moment, or if you're feeling like you want to try an arm balance, you can spread your fingers really wide, look forward towards the top of your mat, lift your tailbone, snug your knees onto your upper arm bones, and lean forward and just transfer the weight. And your feet might come up off the floor. They don't have to, but you might find a balance. If you're really listening and you're having a day where your balance seems appropriate, your feet might come up off the floor, but they don't have to. You're just leaning forward, shifting weight. Then your feet come back down to your mat. If they were in the air, walk your hands forward a little. We're all meeting in cat and cow, tucking your tailbone under, lifting your tailbone, pulling your belly up and letting your belly come down. Let your hips lean left and right. And we'll do one more resting position. Choose any resting position you want. It can be sitting up, it can be leaning forward over your legs, your forehead might be down or your head might be up. Your arms might be to your sides or wrapped back behind you. Start to bring yourself to all the way up to seated. Roll your shoulders and sit back onto your mat with your legs out in front of you, kind of sitting towards the middle of your mat. Wiggle yourself around until you're in the middle of your mat. And take your right leg out in front of you, your left knee out to the side. Slide your right hand down, top of your right leg. Your left arm can wrap around behind you. Turn your gaze past your left shoulder. Lean back on your arm that was wrapped behind you. Lean back and stretch your right arm up and over. Inhale to lift up. Your right arm comes on the inside of your right leg. Your left arm reaches up and over. Inhale to lift up and switch your legs. Now your left leg is out in front of you and your right knee is bent. Wrap your right arm around behind your body and your left hand slides down the top of your left leg. You can connect your hand to your leg, your hand to your foot. Just keep them connected and notice sensation. Notice what you're feeling, what you're observing. Inhale to lift up. Your arm that was wrapped behind you, place it down on your mat behind you and lift your left arm up and over. Inhale to lift up. Your left arm's on the inside of your left knee. Your right arm reaches up and over. Inhale to lift all the way up. Stretch your legs out in front of you. Wiggle out through your knees. Hold on to the backs of your legs. And roll back onto your back. Bring your knees into your chest and draw circles with your knees, both directions. Walk your feet down onto your mat. Rock your knees left and right. Rock your head left and right. And then lengthen your body along your mat and come into any resting position that you like. Could be straight arms, straight legs. It could be laying on your side or your belly. Maybe you want to sit up. You have every option available to you. Allow yourself to just be soft and heavy. So, all of our turns and twists and balancing, all that stuff is done. And we haven't gone on to the next thing yet. We're just here. We're just resting. That's all that you have to do. There's no plan, there's no agenda. You're welcome to stay in resting position as long as you like, as long as you have time for it, depending on your schedule for your day. If you're ready, you can start to wiggle your fingers and your toes, roll through your wrists, your ankles, move your arms and your legs, your hips and your shoulders, your spine, your neck, your head, your face. If you're lying down, you can roll over onto one side. Pause there for a moment. You can gradually bring yourself up through seated. Take your time doing that. Readjust yourself. You can place your hands on the tops of your knees, lean back a little bit. Notice all your senses, and maybe you'd like to keep your senses turned inward, or maybe you'd like to readjust your senses so they can be outward again, noticing interactions with the world, noticing what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, noticing what you feel with your skin. Bringing your hands together in front of your chest, rubbing your hands together. And bringing your thumbs a little bit closer toward your sternum, elbows tucked in at your sides. Sit tall. Take a big soft inhale breath through your nose and exhale through your mouth. And one more inhale and exhale. Namaste. Thanks so much for practicing with me today. I appreciate it so much. Please remember to participate in our survey, which is a way for you to tell us your thoughts and opinions about where we can improve. We appreciate it so much. And for one lucky winner, there will be a big, wonderful bag of awesome stuff. Um, it's pretty good stuff. So please participate in the survey if you can, and um, join us for other things. You can join us on our YouTube channel, or you can join us at our website, comebackyoga.org. Please come back and keep practicing, and take care of yourselves. I'm Susan, and I will see you all soon. Have a great rest of your day.